The Racing Postcast in association with Paddy Power. They stream all UK and Irish racing live on your mobile, tablet or PC.
Hello listeners, welcome to this Racing Postcast looking ahead to day 3 of the Royal Meeting. It's Ladies' Day, it's Gold Cup Day, it's going to be a great day, and joining myself, Lee Mottershead, I've got ace Racing Post colleagues Alistair Down, Tony O'Hare and David Carr, and the obvious place to start is the Gold Cup this year run as the Gold Cup in honour of the Queen's 90th birthday. Many happy returns, ma'am. And hopefully you'll be watching a fantastic renewal of the race that is dominated by one horse. And Tony, how it makes sense to start with you. You are our link to Aidan O'Brien. Order of St George is the red-hot favourite, dominating the field and dominating the betting. Does he dominate your thoughts?
He does. Coming over, he was my idea of the Irish banker for the week. Nothing has changed. The big question about the trip, he's never gone beyond the mile and 6, but I think he's a class act. He was hugely impressive in the Irish St Ledger last year, won his prep race at Leopardstown as you'd expect him to, just did what he had to do. He does handle ease in the ground, he's shown that, and I think he stands out as the class horse in the race. As Aidan says, you never know about the trip until you run them over it, but I think he'll be another Ballydoyle Gold Cup winner. And
Tony, to say you're the hotline to Ballydoyle. You presumably get a handle on when Aidan talks to you in terms of what they think. Do you sense they're confident about him winning the Gold Cup?
Well, they've rated him highly all along. Yeah. They think he will stay. They can't be certain, but I'm not saying he's another Yates, but I think he'd be good enough to do what's required.
Alistair, would you share Tony's confidence?
I mean, Tony's made the case very eloquently. There appear to be no negatives about this horse. The trip is a question, but they know what is required of winning Gold Cups, and I can't see that they'd be campaigning this horse for this race if they were in any doubt. Do you get the trip? And he does appear to be in a sort of, if not a parallel universe, then a cut above the rest.
And the trip is the imponderable for almost any horse that tackles the Gold Cup, isn't it? You never know until they've run it.
Yeah, and it's going to be a test. I suppose key to it would be whether someone is bold enough to kick some real pace into it early and make it a savage stamina test or not. But that's the only way that his rivals, Order St George's rivals, can have any hope of getting him beat, and that's to make it a test of such savagery. But that means sacrificing a lot of other hopes in order to get him beat.
David, does it surprise you that there's such a big field taking him on?
Well, we've been talking as though he's an absolute certainty. There's at least 17 other trainers out there who think he must be beatable.
It's great that he's such a big...
I mean, there have been these reports, I know Tony would perhaps disagree, that he's not had a brilliant prep. The fact he's only run 9 days ago. And he's very short for a horse that's never encountered a test like this. And it's a tremendously exciting and interesting race. We all spend weeks and months and years looking forward to mile and a quarter, mile and a half race. This is 2.5 stamina-sapping miles. The ground's going to be soft. It's a tremendously interesting contest.
Yeah.
I mean, coming from the north, I'm going to be cheering on for Clever Cookie, who may be 8 years old, but when you think he's bred to be a staying chaser, this is his peak. Yeah. And he did it really well at York last time. This is going to suit him.
And of course, he wasn't actually disgraced here, was he? When he ran on the King George on ground that wouldn't have suited him.
My one worry is everyone sees him as a soft ground horse. His price might get mighty skinny. Remember, he went off 3rd or 4th favourite for the King George last year. That's why I'm probably going to oppose him tomorrow. But I think he's a very interesting contender.
Tony, what about Max Dynamite? I mean, he was so impressive at York last year, ran a huge race in the Melbourne Cup, but was disappointing at Sandown.
He was, yeah. First run since the Melbourne Cup. I know connections probably still have nightmares about his run there at Flemington when he...
There's still some people still paying the bill.
Would you be one of them?
Yes.
Yeah. Again, the trip, 2.5 miles, we don't know. But he's tough, he stays. He should have improved from Sandown, but he need to have improved quite a bit.
What were the explanations for Sandown, or what were the rumours about what went wrong at Sandown?
Well, Willie Mullins mentioned to me it might have been tactics, or it might have been the fact that he'd been so long off that he was just a bit rusty. You'd expect him to improve.
Palisade did seem to go through the race on that day at least like the better horse of the pair. And considering he's almost double the price tomorrow, I think bookmakers are rather factored in the William Mullins factor rather than the form book.
Guys, our friends at Paddy Power, they've got Order St George at 10 to 11, Max Dynamite we talked about 8 to 1, Clever Cookie 10 to 1. At that price, they're also quoting Flying Officer and Mizzou, the old Ascot rivals. Do we see those as potential Gold Cup winners, anybody?
Well, you could see Flying Officer running a big race. I think you're going through the best in there. Max Dynamite is a horse you've got to watch in the market. Because if they think they got Max Dynamite right, then that 8 to 1 will get chomped up from the cleaners to start with all the way through today. And there's been mention of Palisator, who's a sort of card-carrying lunatic. He didn't get laughed up at Sandown.
He looks like he might be getting better with age in that regard.
I think he's probably just thinking, I'm going to fool that old fool Prescott and pretend I'm a reformed character. He's as tricky as anything.
But once the store's open, it's never a problem.
Fine. It's never affected how he runs. The fact he gets him.
And if there's any trainer who's going to coax him down to the start and get in their car amongst 70,000 people here, it is Sir Mark.
Yes, there'll be plans in place, and it's Oisin Murphy, which is on him presumably.
Yeah.
And he didn't get on with Andrew Razzani in the couple of little escapades they had, and they both hated each other. So I think Palisator could run a big race, and he has got this little bit of foot, which is unusual in the Slayer.
But he also
Sir Mark's horse ran well yesterday. They are in form. It's like firing a revolver, but it's like Russian roulette in reverse. You've got five of the chambers are loaded and one is empty. And if it's empty day for Palisator, then it's going to be a no-show.
But when you think he's an 11 to 1 shot and the favourite's 10 to 11, I mean that's why I make him the bet, Palisator, at those odds.
There was a great line that Sir Mark mentioned after Henry II when he was talking about the Irish Sun Ledger 2 years ago when Andrea rode the horse the first time. And he said the horse was behaving like a complete lunatic in the parade. He said, and as the band struck up the national anthem, it was clear to me that he and Andrea hadn't completely bonded. But he was very complimentary about Sheen's one at Sandown.
I think he'll run well because this horse was bought off some chums of mine by current connections and with this race in mind, and this horse will have had a preparation that no stone will have been unturned in getting him here in prime condition.
And just summing up, isn't it marvellous that despite all the rival attractions, despite the emphasis on speed in the breeding industry, that this race still I think doesn't dominate, but it's a headline attraction of the meeting.
It is still a race that retains every ounce of its prestige, and you're too young to remember this, but Tony will. It's not 20 or 25 years ago when there was a concerted move to chop the trip.
Well, there were one or two poor. It was dying on its feet. All credit to Ascot for reinventing it, reinvigorating it, the staying.
But also, races like this, staying races, they go through troughs and peaks when the horses are about, and the horses return, and the big players return to support the race, and that raise the
If there's
quality.
two heroes of it, it's Aidan O'Brien and Double Trigger. They both really lend something to the race, and it's since then it's come back.
I would just go back to Order of St George, as you say, Aidan O'Brien, and there wouldn't be a more commercial organisation in flat racing than Coolmore, but yet they've embraced this very uncommercial race by running some really good horse in it, and it looks like maybe Order of St George is the next one. Okay, that then is the Gold Cup wrap. 2 votes for Order of St George, 1 for Palisator. We'll take a break and then.
No, I'm not Order of St George.
You're not. No,
I can't back horse.
No, he can't back.
It's odds on. I haven't backed odds on bets since I was 19.
Oh, go on then. What are you going for?
I'd have to back Palisator each way at 11.
2 for Palisator has it then. The jury here 2-1. Actually, I'm with Order of St George, so 2-2. Break and then the Norfolk Stakes.
Here's Paddy Power's latest offer for Royal Ascot. It's money back as a free bet if your horse finishes second to the SP5 in every single race throughout Royal Ascot. Max £25 per race, 18 plus. Please gamble responsibly.
Welcome back, listeners, as we now begin our second half of the programme with a race that couldn't be as far removed from the Gold Cup as it's possible to be. That is the Norfolk Stakes, 5 furlongs for 2-year-olds, although in this ground at Ascot it's going to feel like pretty much further than 5 furlongs. Global applause heads the market at 2-1. With Paddy Power, 7-2 Godolphin Silver Line, 5-1 Red Lodge for America and Wesley Ward. David, what have you made of the 2-year-olds we're going to be seeing in this race?
I think, as is always the case, the 2-year-old races at Ascot, it's trappy because most of them have hardly run, you don't know. But I do think that Global Applause sets a very high standard, run 3 times, had an excuse the time he was beaten, and there was an awful lot to like about the way he did it at Sandown last time. We know the form's been franked by Memas running so well in the Coventry Stakes here earlier in the week. He's not running ground this soft, but he's by Mason, and those who remember his winning the July Cup in bottomless ground think that shouldn't be a problem. And I think, Tony will tell us more about Aidan O'Brien's runner, who's clearly another lightly raced horse. I think of the fancied horses, he's the one that's got to go well.
Tony, DC has served you up a question about Aidan's horse.
Yeah, won first time out. He was Aidan's first 2-year-old runner of the season when he won at Dundalk early in the campaign. Got beaten in a 4-horse race at the Curragh after that. He was sort of very green on that occasion. Aidan claimed that it was his first time on grass, forgave him the defeat. Won a listed race at Naas in good style, over 6, back over 5 furlongs. He's got plenty of pace. I can sort of see him being sort of banged there. He's got a serious chance, although my informants tell me that David's right. Global Applause is the one.
Alistair, have you got any informants on the Norfolk Stakes?
No, I mean, I do remember the big message there was for Global Applause first time out.
Yeah, Guineas weekend,
yeah,
wasn't it?
Absolutely. And I think he's the one to be. I like the sound of Legendary Lunch, but we're too busy working to have one. It's a Hannon horse. It may be named after Richard Senior at Goodwood.
There was a very nice summer fruit trifle in here yesterday.
And how surprising that you found it.
No, I didn't take much finding.
Can I just butt in? There's one horse worth looking out for, Plateau Plomo, trained by Tony Coyle, won really nicely at Haydock the other week. He immediately held it the best he's ever had, which is actually saying something. He's had listed class horses.
Yeah, and he knows the price of fish.
It went to the sale on Monday, unsold at £145,000, which shows they think something of it. He's 20 to 1 with Paddy Power, and I think he'll probably outrun those odds, though he's probably got it to do with Global Applause.
Okay, that's an interesting comment on Plateau Plomo, 20 to 1 for David Carr. Next we have the Tercentenary Stakes. Probably not a vintage renewal on play. I remember Time Test won it last year. Abden, who was beaten by Hawkbill last time, actually heads the betting at 3 to 1 with Hawkbill on 7 to 2. Blue de Vega, the Irish Guineas, third at 7 to 2 as well. And Tony, 2 for Ireland here. Blue de Vega say third in the Irish Guineas, and Aidan O'Brien saddles a fascinating unbeaten colt in Long Island Sound.
Yeah, 3 from 3, sort of Dundalk and Killarney. It's not what you sort of readily associate with the Royal Ascot winner, but he's stepping up in trip. I'd say he's a hell of a lot better than his bare form indicates.
Yeah.
Blue de Vega, the form horse after the Guineas run, is a Group 3 winner, has a £4 penalty. Kieran Fallon back at Ascot in the big time.
Is he going to be suited by the extra distance?
Blue de Vega? Not convinced. No.
And he gives way to her as well, £4 to everything else.
Yeah, Long Island Sound, it's very hard to weigh up.
Yeah,
But
could be anything.
Could be anything, yeah.
Alistair, Abdon, Frank de Tour
Not
is seen.
a clue.
No.
No interest. In the race. I've been misleading both our listeners.
You're viewing it as an early sight towards the supreme novices of 2018.
It's not a race I want to get involved in. I think Tony's made the point that Long Island Sound could be anything.
Yep.
No.
I think one interesting aspect of the race is they don't appear at first glance to be the absolute superstars in the race.
No.
It's worth looking at one of the lightly raced ones. I was at Doncaster last back end when Royal Artillery made his debut. Expensive Cornwall, John Gosden horse, huge thing, looked really promising.
Yeah.
He was made virtually Derby favourite that day. Things clearly haven't been easy this season. He was desperately in need of his run first time back, as you'd expect of a big horse. He looked horribly green and wasn't wildly encouraging. The fact they're persevering, running him in this race. John Gosden runs a cat in a race around here at this meeting. You'd be half interested. He's 16 to 1 with Paddy Power. Given that USA was Derby favourite 6 months ago, you wouldn't be surprised if he ran far better than those odds suggest.
Okay, I'll tell you what, you're on a roll here, David, with some big prize contenders, so we shall move on.
It's also a good illustration of the wide variety of horses. You should never be Derby favourite. At one time or another,
Very true.
Okay, guys, the Ribblesdale Stakes will come up at 3:40, 14 declared runners, and we have got that age-old thing you find in the Ribblesdale Stakes, a horse that was placed in the Oaks, trying to go better a few days later in the Ribblesdale. Generally, They don't go on from Epsom and they run below par. David, architecture, second to Minding in the Oaks. Hugo Palmer's line off that was that she'd be very unlikely to run at Ascot. She's clearly come out of the race better than they expected. She comes here. Are you with her or against?
One thing she's clearly come out of the race. What they may well have done is looked at this race and think, for God, if she runs within 10 pounds of what she did at Epsom, she's going to be very hard to beat. But fillies listed in lower group races, particularly restricted 3-year-olds, are absolute nightmares. This race is littered with examples of fillies showing astonishingly improved form and others running badly. Architecture is going to be a short price. I haven't seen Paddy Power's betting. I imagine, is she virtually odds on?
She's 11-4 with 7-2 even song, 5-1 Sovereign Parade.
Given the superiority of her form, that 11-4 isn't a bad bet.
Okay.
But even so, I wouldn't be rushing to take it, and nor would I be rushing to name you which one's going to take advantage if she doesn't run to her form. It's trappy.
That's fair enough. Alistair, architecture, what do you think about her?
I think, despite the poor record of Oaks fillies, beaten Oaks fillies coming on here, I don't think, given the reluctance Hugo Palmer was showing about this race, that he'd be coming here unless he was fully satisfied with her, and I think I'd have to stay with her.
Okay, Tony.
I think David's point about this race has a history of producing things off the bottom of the deck, which end up being very good fillies. This is where they appear.
Tony, Even Song is a fascinating runner in that she was regarded by all the talkers the Ballydall's second string going into the Oaks. She didn't run in the Oaks. Is that an indicator that they thought, well, this is probably a Ribblesdale winner, let's not waste her in the Oaks, let's try and win this, and then we go on to the Curragh?
Yeah, well, I was speaking to Aidan this morning, and it wasn't that she had a hold up or anything and missed the Oaks. They decided to bypass it and to come here. I mean, she's going up in trip, but the way she finished her race in Newmarket, you'd think that she shouldn't have much difficulty staying the longer trip. She's a half sister to Simple Verse, so that's another stamina.
And she did look promising. The bare form at Newmarket. I know the winner's a nice filly, but she was beaten a long way. But she was finishing strongly.
She was finishing strongly. First run. I'd expect a good bit better from her.
Okay. Anybody got anything else to add about the Ribblesdale Stakes? If not, we shall move straight on to Paddy Power's Brendan Duke and hear what he thinks about Thursday at Royal Ascot.
It's Gold Cup Day, and from the bookies' perspective, this day is all about one horse. Many people's idea, the banker of the meeting, Order of St. George. With the ground having come in his favour, he will prove very difficult to beat. But as the day's hot pot, we are duty bound to take him on, and hope that perhaps a combination of his temperament and the extreme distance will get the better of him. For what it's worth, my best bet of the day is Rocca Verdi. She obviously needs a massive step up, but should relish conditions, and is a sporting each-way price.
We return on this Thursday preview of Royal Ascot with two fascinating handicaps to look at. First of all, we have the Britannia Stakes, and an interesting little line on this one, which I've just been typing in for the Britannia preview for the Post, is that Ryan Moore is clearly the Coolmore retained rider. Coolmore run Monarch, ridden by Donica O'Brien. It was an impressive winner last time. Coolmore run Chief Whip, who's a major fancy based on his Haydock second, and yet Magnia, Tabor and Smith have let Ryan off to ride for William Haggis on Out and About.
Because it's going to win.
I was going to say, Alistair, I read in the week that you tipped this horse up. Now, have you got a strong inside line from the Haggis camp?
I haven't spoken to Mr. Haggis, and I wouldn't. It's his business, not mine, but they are very full of it.
Now, where do you hear that from?
No, I couldn't possibly relate, but I mean, I know Ryan Moore is extremely keen on the horse.
Is he?
And you put your finger on the bull point that he's on this horse where he should be obliged, or might be obliged to be on others. He's Out and About's 1-2. Didn't tear up trees at Haydock, but every bit of profile is a William Haggis plan. Introduction at Newbury was nice as 2-year-old, and then has won his last two races without winning 8 lengths and attracting the handicap's attention unduly. And I think he'll be backed, and I think he'll run extremely well.
And the ground's not a worry for you?
Well,
no more than anybody?
No, I don't think so. I think he'll be all right with that.
Okay.
And the history book, William Haggis is very good at laying out this type of horse for this type of race. and it working. There's 30 plots in this race, and plenty laid out by people whose plots really aren't worth following. But Mr. Haggis is one worth taking heed of.
Does that make me think that you are siding with Alistair?
Not necessarily, no. I mean, I've always been a big Garcia fan. He won. He was backed off the boards first time, disappointed. Won well at York next time, put him away. He's won 2 handicaps this year. Not by far, but each time looking a work in progress who's only going to come on. I thought he was always going to win at Haydock last time. He's gone up in the weights, but not punitively so.
Yep.
And I think he's going to run a hell of a race as well.
Okay. Tony, would you think that Monarch would be the number 1 member of the Irish Challenge?
Yeah, 3 runners, 7 left, Monarch and Pacadal. Wouldn't have Pacadal, 7 left, ran quite well last time, won a couple of races last year. Could see it running well at a big price, but Monarch is probably the pick of them. Whether he's a betting proposition is another matter.
No, that's fair enough. And then the card ends with a race that's a 1.5 handicap for 3-year-olds, but often you find better horses coming out of this race, and the King over the 7 Stakes on Friday, the Group 2 for 1.5 3-year-olds. And again, David mentioned number of horses that are plots for the Britannia. Same thing, David, with this race, just over 4 furlongs further.
You'd imagine Mr. Haggis has been asked to get Guy Fawkes ready for this race, given he's owned by Her Majesty.
Yeah.
But that's one of a number that come here with maiden form, bits and pieces of form that make them very interesting. My personal preference is for Primitivo, who's got very solid form, and I think 1 or 2 may get the better of him, but he certainly is going to run. He's going to run a real solid race and give you a run for your money.
Alistair, given what Guy Fawkes did in the past, it was quite a bold move of Her Majesty to name a horse Guy Fawkes, wasn't it?
Well, yes, but she's got enterprising naming qualities. Her horses are well named, actually.
Forgive and forget, I suppose.
And also remember, Guy Fawkes tried to blow up Parliament, not the royal family.
No, I know, but you'd imagine her ancestors would have been quite upset at the time. It's a bit naughty, wasn't it?
It might have been a bit ambivalent, I suspect.
Right, okay.
She may have named it after Lester Biggs' birthday, of course, which is November the 5th, as you should know.
Right, yes.
So I'm going to throw in a completely ludicrous one that is a pound out the weights. Nietzsche, who ran in the ladies' race at York last Saturday and didn't get any sort of... Everything went kind of wrong, staying on well, and then went for a gap that was 2/3 there, which then slammed shut. I think it's very interesting that Brian Ellison's pulled Nietzsche out again so quick. I imagine be any price you like.
Yeah, that's a really interesting one. And Tony, Aidan...
There's nothing Nietzsche couldn't teach.
Lee's much too young to remember that.
Thank you, David, for pointing that out, and of course you are quite right. Aidan's got the Major General, the only Irish runner in the race. Tony Doniker rides this one as well. Tell us about it.
The King George V Stakes is a race we seldom, if ever, win, for the simple reason we seldom, if ever, have a runner in it. Now, the Major General, it took him a few runs to get the hang of things. He's won his last 2 starts, won over the trip last time at Leopardstown. So a different ground. Donick O'Brien claiming 3. He's progressive horse, but he's near the top of the weights, and I'd be sort of pleasantly surprised if he wins.
But you wouldn't be pleasantly surprised, as we move on to the best bets, if Order of St George wins the Gold Cup?
Definitely won't be surprised. No, I think he win. I think the filly in the Ribblesdale has a big chance as well.
Okay, so 2 there from Tony. David, what would your best bet on day 3 of Ascot?
Well, I think if you were to say name a winner, it would be Global Applause.
Yep.
Best bet, I think go for the big race. Palisade at 11-1, I think is a worthy wager. Okay,
my best bet's not nearly as interesting or important as the guys, but like Tony, I've already backed Order of St George and Even Song, and I will be backing what I think was probably Alistair's best bet of the day.
Out and about, run more Britannia Stakes, 30 runners, keep it simple.
Keep it simple. I hope you've enjoyed that, guys. We're back on Thursday, looking ahead to the Friday action. Bruce Millington will be in the presenter's chair on that occasion. Do join us, and do join us, in fact, throughout the week. Bye-bye.
The Race and Postcast in association with Paddy Power. They price up all UK and Irish racing the night before.